In Detroit, Michigan, born and raised, Mary Jean Lily Tomlin was. I wish more things rhymed. Hi, guys. Welcome to HeartCore. I'm Chell. That's Miko.
Hi everyone. At least it didn't have anything with orange in it.
Ah, you're right. Yeah, I feel like I could have found something to rhyme with orange over Lily Tomlin. I don't know. Or was it Detroit, Michigan? One of the two.
I like that intro. Yeah, that's getting to the point of why we are here today. We are going to be talking about Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. So we're first going to focus on Lily Tomlin's history and life, and then we're going to connect both the Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda charts and take a look at their relationships together.
I'm gonna I'm gonna give it another shot. I think I may have another line to it. Maybe. Don't judge me, guys. In Detroit, Michigan, born and raised, Mary Jean Lily Tomlin grew up in a working class family. Nope, too many syllables. I attempted. Anyway, Lily Tomlin was born as Mary Jean Lily Tomlin. Tell me why all these boo boo kittens back in the day had a million names to them, as did Jane Fonda. So go back and listen to that episode. Are you saying that you also have a million names, Miko?
I can tell you why.
Why do they have a million names?
I do have two names, two first names. My father has four
Oh my
first names,
god.
my mother as well. Because it's easier to keep apart people that have multiple names to really be able to pinpoint who they are than to just go by Jane Wagner, for example, who we're also going to be talking about. But that is a very, very common name, or it's a more common name than someone that has two, three, four first names and then the last name.
That's fair. Now that I'm thinking about it, my dad has three first names or three names before his last name. So yeah, I get that. Okay, cool. Interesting. Anyway, Lily Tomlin, born Mary Jean Lily Tomlin, all of the names on September 1st, 1939 in Detroit, Michigan. She grew up to a pretty normal family, just like a working class family in Detroit. Her mom was Lily May. She was a homemaker and a nurse's aide, and her father's name was Guy Tomlin, and he worked in a factory. Again, pretty normal American in the 30s pre-war. And she was raised in a pretty modest household. She was exposed to humor, exposed to storytelling, and right across the street or like down the street from her house, there was like a community center kind of situation. And that's where she learned like tap dancing, that's where she learned to sing, to act, basically just like all of the beautiful Lily Tomlin comedic things that we know now. She kind of gained a bit of an essence for back at the community center that she grew up in Detroit. I think the aim of that was to keep kids off the street, but it really turned into a passion of hers, and it's just cool to see that that's kind of where her roots started. Being this middle class family, they didn't go to the movie theater very much. I'm sure that was expensive back in the day, but there was still a lot of like humor and storytelling amongst her family, and that's kind of where she got this, again, this essence from. After her upbringing years, she decided to go to Wayne State University and study biology, of all of the things. She was like, this seems like a reasonable path. I will be a doctor because this just seems like the right thing. And she finished her degree, but her draw to theater was still out there. And she was young, right? She was in her early 20s. She's like, dude, YOLO, I'm going to move to New York. And she moved to New York to pursue acting. She started doing stand up in local comedy clubs. And at this point, she was really starting to hone in on the type of humor and character work that she was doing. So, to just give you guys a bit of perspective, she would have been 20 in the late 50s, early 60s. At this point, female comedians were like, not really a thing. They were mostly skit comedians or like needed to be a certain type of character. If you guys have ever seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime, this does a great depiction of what that was like for women who were trying to be comedians back in the 50s. You had to have a shtick. And Lily kind of fell into that a little bit, but she also very much loved the monologue. She very much loved bringing people along for a story rather than just like joke, punchline kind of situation. So, not your typical stand up, definitely more of a storytelling kind of thing. I'm going to stop right here and let Miko take over a little bit because I feel like that was a decent amount of information to give you a little bit of a lift off point from.
Yeah, that is already a lot of information, which I've just shared the screen to show her design for everyone that is watching. And if you're not watching, then go to Spotify or YouTube to check out what we're talking about in more detail if you're a visual learner. We have a triple split definition here in Lily Tomlin. So she has 3 different quote-unquote islands in herself, and also different ways that her inner self is communicating with her, and she is only consciously defined in the 4037 channel, and this is her conscious sun and earth placement. So it's a very, very strong placement, and this is most likely how she really understands herself, how she identifies herself, at least on a conscious level, and at least at the beginning of her years. So tribe and family is very important to her. As I had heard previously before we started recording, she had a really good upbringing, so a really comfortable childhood. And with this channel being defined, family and tribe and friendships are just a very important part of her life. Being a triple split personality, it makes sense that she was moving a lot and keep connecting with people around her, strangers in particular, because she is a 3-5 profile, and networking with strangers, with people that she doesn't know. This is a very big thing for 3-5 profiles. A third line is going to enter into relationships and break the relationships as well over and over again. And this doesn't mean that they break up with these people over and over again, but it's just about them needing time apart more than another type of line in a profile. So this is really good when you meet someone and then you spend time apart again, and then you meet them and you spend time apart again. And for her, this is more on the personality side than on the physical body side. It's really about maybe not speaking for a while and then coming back together and sharing their thoughts and ideas again. A fifth line, as I said, it has a lot to do with connecting with strangers, and this is where the community part for me seemed very likely that she would spend a lot of time there, because I'm assuming as well that those are people that often rotate. It's not going to be the same type of person that comes there all the time. There will be some regulars, but there's also always going to be a stream of new people coming into this community. This is a fantastic thing for a triple split, because she really needs to flow through different crowds and to meet different people all the time. She doesn't have to communicate with them, but it's just about the physical moving through the aura of these individuals. So to me, this is probably something where she felt more connected within herself when she was able to do this and also take part into these activities such as dancing or acting or things like this. And also the fact that she loves to tell stories and to take people along for the ride. She has an undefined G center. So this is something where she's able to take in the personalities of others. So if she's an actor acting with someone else in front of her, she's able to take in and really understand what the other person is about and how they're trying to portray the situation and jump onto that kind of energy. This is when she's intuitively working the role, really being in the present moment with her 3420 channel, seeing how her sacral responds, but also seeing the interaction between the person that is in front of her, taking it in and amplifying that to really bring her role across even more as well. Additionally to that, she does have the 56th gate, 56.4 in her Pluto, which is storytelling and specifically linked to a kind of shared aspect. So it's really about sharing stories with others. And in a theater setting, it can feel like a bit like a family, like a tribe, like people are there to come together and to witness the play and to listen to the stories that the actors are sharing. So the fourth line is always more connected to a tribal storytelling aspect, not so much a collective tribal not so much a collective storytelling aspect. It's going to play a role when we're going to take a look at both of their charts together, Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. This is going to be one aspect that is in compromise with Jane Fonda.
Just leaving those little nuggets out.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to continue with the story if that's cool.
Yes.
So I saw when you had this page up that her Saturn return was in 1969. And that's interesting because she started Laugh-In in 1969, and Laugh-In was her big break, which means, lo and behold, it happened during her Saturn return, and I have the chills saying that. How freaking cool. So Laugh-In was like SNL before SNL was SNL. And it was basically just like all of these up-and-coming stars having a spot on stage to do skits and to create characters. So Lily Tomlin got onto Laugh-In in 1969, and there were a variety of different stars and starlets that all saw their rise on this show as well. So she brought several characters to the show because, remember, that's her vibe, that's her shtick. So the first character that she brought, her name is Ernestine Tomlin, her namesake, and Ernestine was a telephone operator. For you Gen Z kids out there, a telephone operator would call from the company, or rather, you would call from your home to the company, and then they would connect the lines so that you can complete the call. I know, before satellites, wild and crazy times here. So she worked for a pretty prevalent company in New York, and the reason she started this skit is because people felt like they were just being scammed by the phone company. They were like, why am I paying all of this money a month and I can't even connect a call? Like, that's like the sketchy operation that was happening back in the 60s with this one phone company in New York. So she just went off the rails with this character. And I recall in several interviews that I watched of her, she just said like the face scrunching that she did with it kind of just came to her. And like the more she would lean into this character, the more face scrunching she would do. And then there was also like something else that she like, I think she was like rearranging her boobs or something like that, or like her hand was like down her shirt and she would just scrunch her face and get like really perturbed at the. There was one time she was calling, I believe it was someone in Russia who hadn't paid his phone bill, and just like went off and being like, well, I know X, Y, and Z about you. Like, if you don't pay your phone bill, like, we're just going to extort you. And it was really funny that, yeah, I don't know. It's just, she was very poignant in what she was doing. Oh, there we go. So if you guys are watching right now, the face that she's making is off to the left of the screen. And I mean, it is memorable to say the least. But she would just like, she felt so empowered being in that position, like Ernestine did. Maybe Lily did too, but Ernestine felt so empowered in that position. And it really came through in the comedy that she expressed through that character. The other character that she created on Laugh-In was based off of a 5-year-old that she met in, I think she was just like at a hotel, and this small child came up to her, and after everything she would say, she would just like go like this and like blow a raspberry. So Lily Tomlin kind of just took that from this small child that she met super randomly and created Edith Ann. And with this character, she's playing a 5-year-old sitting in a large rocking chair to make her look super tiny. And she was just really able to kind of say whatever she wanted through the lens of a 5-year-old. And that playing the younger child really allowed her to kind of just be wild and crazy with what she was saying. And if I recall, like that was her reasoning behind choosing those two characters, to be able to make, in most cases, different political points and different points for activism and things that she believed in through those roles. And Laugh-In was really the platform that allowed her to do that. So really cool. And yes, she was still doing stand-up, but Laugh-In was something that really took her from being a stand-up comedian to next level.
Yeah, and that fits super well with the undefined G Center, with being able to just chameleon yourself into different roles. Really fascinating. I didn't know these things about her, because I mean, I think in last episode I even said that I didn't really realize that Jane Fonda was an actress, but I had already watched all the Grace and Frankie episodes. But that's the only thing I knew of her, and also of Lily Tomlin. I just really love their dynamics, which is also a big reason why we're here today talking about both of them. Yeah, really interesting.
I got more. You want more?
Yeah, I want more.
Okay, cool. A couple of years later, she met her now wife, then partner slash then love interest. She knew from like love at first sight that Jane Wagner, the other Jane in her life, was the person for her. And not only did they like date, but they also wrote together. So Jane Wagner wrote a lot and they collaborated together. So Jane wrote a lot of her scripts that she would do for like her one-woman plays in the 70s and 80s, and they just had a really cool business relationship in addition to a beautiful personal relationship as well. While we're on that topic, they never came out together that they were together. It was the 60s and 70s. It was, I mean, people probably assumed but didn't really say anything. She was on, I was like Johnny Carson or something like that. He's like, oh, like, don't you want kids and a husband? She's like, it doesn't really seem like it's for me. And not that she like denied it or like skirted the issue. She just didn't answer the question directly. So, but yeah, they've been together since 1971 and they're just the cutest couple together, those ladies. And I think it's really cool that they're just so supportive of each other and have really built each other up from like a work perspective, but also just like on a human to human perspective. So I think that that's really beautiful.
They really are so cute together.
So in the 70s, after she had done Laugh-In, she wanted to do something a bit more serious. And actually, on her whole repertoire, this is probably her most serious role. Lily played the mother of 2 deaf children in a film called Nashville, and she was actually nominated for an Oscar for that movie. She didn't win, but just to show how vast her range is, going from stand-up and making people laugh to playing a really poignant, serious role that had a lot of messaging behind it, right? To truly take care of that community and understand the deaf community a bit more, which is why I think she took that role initially. From then, she was still doing one-woman shows that her and Jane were writing together, as well as stand-up, and that's actually where Jane Fonda kind of got a little essence of Lily. If you guys recall from the Jane Fonda episode, she reached out to both Dolly Parton and Lily Tomlin's manager, who just happened to be the same manager, but that was after she had seen Lily Tomlin performing stand-up, and she's like, oh my god, I'm gonna do a movie and she has to be in it. So that was actually the impetus of them embarking upon 9 to 5. It was after a lot of convincing from Jane Fonda through their manager to get both Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton on the movie. There was a decent amount of hesitancy from Lily Tomlin to do that movie. I think because some of the first scenes in 9 to 5 are a little bit farcical. I don't know if that's a word. It sounds like icicle and a farce. We're a bit farcy, farcical. We're gonna go with it. We're a bit of a farce, and it was a little bit Snow Whitey. So Lily Tomlin wasn't seeing the picture there. She's like, I don't get it. Especially if you're doing acting on a green screen, I get it, right? Like you don't really get it until post. But she stuck with it, and that was truly what solidified their friendship and really what they would go on to create together, which is beautiful. And that's when she became the second Jane in her life. There are very few actors out there that can claim to have an EGOT, which is an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. But Lily Tomlin is one letter shy of an EGOT, which is awesome. For her one-woman show, The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe, again, written by her and Jane Wagner. She won a Tony Award for this performance. I don't recall what she won a Grammy for. Oh, I know. She won a Grammy for a movie that she did in the early 2000s. And she does actually have a beautiful singing voice. You probably wouldn't think it. She has an Emmy for, I believe, The Magic School Bus. And she was nominated for an Oscar but did not win. So she's quite the well-rounded actress slash comedienne, whatever you want to call it. For the 1990s kids out there, if you guys watched The Magic School Bus back in the day, she was the voice of Miss Frizzle. She was also had guest appearances on The West Wing as a really sassy, like, admin assistant for the president. And if you're watching this or listening to this in more modern times, you probably know her as Frankie on Grace and Frankie, and for 80 for Brady, and then she and Jane Fonda did another movie recently together. But yeah, that kind of wraps up her career in acting, and we can move on a bit to activism as well. So just like Jane Fonda, she's kind of been a trailblazer in her career and in her personal life. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but her and Jane have been together since the 70s. Again, they didn't really come out in public. I believe she wanted, or rather Time magazine wanted to do a spread on her and like out her. And she's like, no, like no one needs to know that, and especially not in that way. And when her and Jane did come out and get married in 2013, they were very active in the LGBTQ plus community and for LGBTQ plus rights, environmental conservation. She took part in several of Jane Fonda's, I think they're called like Firestarter Fridays. I mentioned them in the last podcast as well. And they've been arrested together for those as well. And she also fights for women equality or female equality. When we talked about 9 to 5 in the last movie, the whole movie is about female equality in the workplace. So obviously that would be something that she advocates for, not just in her movies, but outside in the real world as well. But yeah, she's been able to use her platform similarly to Jane to really create conversation around all of these topics that she has a lot of passion for.
Definitely. Yeah, I think this also comes across with her right angle cross of planning in particular, with all the willpower that is present in her design. An interesting mix happening in determination, enthusiasm, and willpower all mixed together in one. What she really needs in relationships, however, is really to have a clear understanding of who brings to the table. But as soon as that is given, it can be a very harmonious relationship. And I'm very much looking forward to connecting the charts with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, because there are similarities, but also potential challenges in the relationship. But I think that they're both so evolved and self-reflected by now that it's probably extremely harmonious in most ways. And they also are fighting for a lot of the same causes. This activism side is within both of them. this rebellious side is within both of them. A bit stronger probably in Jane in certain aspects, like more outspoken, more in your face about it. I think just being in a gay relationship at that time already, to me, is a strong show of willpower, determination, and standing up for what you believe in a more Buddhist Zen way, however. That's what I feel about her.
I have a question for you. 2 questions, maybe. When she is in interviews by herself, actually, even when she's in interviews with Jane, she's very quick-witted and charismatic, some would say. How much of that is the channel of charisma, would you say? Like that, I mean, genuinely like that coming out, because it doesn't feel like she has to think about it. She's just so quick and witty, and it comes out, I don't know, just so eloquently. And then I have another question.
So I think the channel of charisma has a lot to do with this, and especially because it's in her Mercury, her unconscious Mercury. And this quick wit, it's unconsciously defined within her, and it unconsciously just flows out of her without her necessarily thinking about what she's saying in the moment, and maybe reflecting on what she just said in hindsight a lot of times. But it really needs to be well attuned, otherwise there can be things that come out that you didn't want to come out because you just spoke too quickly, especially with an emotionally defined being, where they do need time to make decisions. But this is where, with the connection from 34 to 20, so from the sacral to the throat directly, and also being defined with her unconscious Mercury and unconscious Moon, it's really strongly connected to her emotional why she's doing things, and also to her communication skills. So this is a gate in the throat defined by Mercury. So communication, and she has a very quick and charismatic sense about her. So when she speaks, it does come from a solid foundation. She does have the moon that is catching her in this. So I would assume, I have never seen her speak in interviews, but I would assume that it is still about topics where she has dug deeper into to create a safe space and a foundation. I don't think she would speak about things that she doesn't know much about. So she needs this kind of foundation to be able to create this wit and say these witty things about topics.
Yeah, I can see that. Cool. Second question. She's a quad right and has the right angle cross of planning 3. Riddle me that, please.
So the quad right is, as you know, well, half of you knows, with the right personality, you are someone that is more passive in the way that you're observing things, and you're picking up everything around you without having to have a concrete focus on things. So it is really a more flowy approach to going through life. As it said, we're moving more towards the quad right. We're leaving behind the quad left. Quad left is kind of the old species, the old human species. Quad right is the modern human species, and it is less about logical approach. It is more about abstract approach. And she does have the ajna in the head unconsciously defined, so partially conscious in the head center, partially unconscious in the ajna. So while she does have the ability to receive these inner inspirations through her individual channel in the 6124, she may not be consciously aware of having the ability to process her ideas and to create very structured approaches out of her ideas. And she's also not able to communicate from her mind directly to her throat. So we have a connection from her sacral to her throat, actually from her root to the sacral to the throat. But there is no concrete connection to her throat from her mind and or from her head and ajna. So that's where she would need an interviewer when it comes to sharing her ideas and thoughts, or another person such as Jane Fonda, which we're going to get to because she's creating this connection to her throat through the 1156 channel. The quad right needs a more passive environment to relax into and to then be able to create the proper atmosphere for someone else to pull the ideas out of them, to pull the thoughts out of them, to pull the wisdom out of them. So if she would have the connection directly to the ajna, I would say, okay, fair enough. She has the ability to share all of this also from within herself. But with the disconnect, she doesn't have a consistent way of doing so, of sharing her thoughts and ideas and conceptualizations with the world. So she does need someone else with the library card to be like, hey, give me access to your wisdom. The right angle cross of planning. So this is something that we're currently stepping out of. 2027 is the shift from the right angle cross of planning to the next 411 years into a new cycle. And the right angle cross of planning 3, it's basically connected to how the placements are shown here in the Incarnation cross. So whether it's a 40 in her conscious sun, or a 37 in her conscious sun, or a 9 in her conscious sun, this would create a different kind of cross. And the cross of planning 3 is this concrete connection: 40, 37, 40 in her conscious sun, 37 in her conscious earth, and the 9 in her unconscious earth, and 16 in her unconscious sun. Whether it's a right or left angle cross would depend on the profile. So in this case, a 3-5 profile creates a right angle cross, whereas a 6-2 profile would create a left angle cross, for example.
I appreciate that. Because my thoughts on someone with a quad right is like, they need the space to be creative. And to me, that seems counterintuitive whilst also having the right angle cross of planning. But that makes more sense now. It's just more of a passive way of experiencing the world versus needing the detail and list like a quad left would, for example. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And also what I like to do when it comes to incarnation crosses is really to dive into the gates, to instead of just look at the overall cross and getting a 2-sentence definition, as is often given in when it comes to these crosses. There are also people that dive deeper into it, and I appreciate it, but it's really important to analyze and dissect the individual gates within, because it's one of the most important placements, your earth and sun placements, both conscious and unconscious, and to really understand what these gates stand for. If you're reading through, so I like to then take in the gene keys and really read through the entire gate, the shadow and the gift aspect, and then the siddhi aspect of this gate, because the gate that you're going to be able to identify most with is your conscious sun. This is what you can really identify with and really understand about yourself. This is how you shine your light in your personality aspect. The unconscious side is also still something that you can understand most from the entire unconscious side. The sun and the earth would still be placements that you would still be able to understand most, but not as much as the personality side if you haven't done enough self-reflective practice. So yeah, diving into the gates is, in my opinion, more important than focusing on the crosses. Oh, the superficial definition of the crosses, let's say it this way. So, with that being said, if Celestina has nothing else to add to Lily Tomlin, for now, we're going to take a look at Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin together, and I'm sure there are going to be a few things here and there that you're going to be able to throw into to explain the findings of the human design chart from their lives. As you can see, Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, if you're watching, that is, are creating a split definition still. So we have Jane Fonda as a 2-4 generator and Lily Tomlin as a 3-5 manifesting generator. So what they have in common is that they do have the right angle in their incarnation cross. And this does create a bit of a mutual understanding. The first thing that stood out to me was actually that when you're looking at each of their design, they both have all 3 gates pointing towards the head center from the ajna defined. The other thing that stood out to me is when I was diving deeper into this, is that this is Lily Tomlin that has the 6124 channel, and Jane Fonda has the 6447 channel. So Jane Fonda is more of an abstract thinker and has more abstract ideas, while Lily Tomlin has more of this inner download capability. So it's kind of like an inner knowing that is being produced within her. She just knows things from within her, but doesn't really understand why she knows them. Jane Fonda is more about, she is looking at past events and is trying to make sense out of these past events, and tries to gain clarity from going over these past events over and over again to just understand how to make better decisions in the future. Well, let's hope it's to understand how to make better decisions in the future. Another thing that is interesting, they both have the 47 in their Neptune. So they have it in different lines, which is also an important part that you need to consider when looking at human design charts, because each line is going to show you different aspects of a gate. When you click on one of those gates, for example, you will see more about the line. So this is my mechanics. It's going to look very different on different platforms, and this is going to tell you a lot about the individual gate and line. But just on the superficial side of the line, when you're looking at line 3, for example, you will know, okay, this is about making and breaking bonds, and it's about bumping into life, trial and error, seeing what works, what doesn't work. In the 47th gate in Jane Fonda's Neptune, while she also has the 47th gate with the 5th line, which is about external communication and sharing her abstract ideas and thoughts with strangers. While for Lily Tomlin, this is about more of a communal tribal sharing again. It's more with friends and family. So she's already, in everything that I saw with it, Lily Tomlin, she is more closed off to the world. She's more of a hermit in a sense, in the way that she doesn't like to share much with strangers. Not as much as Jane Fonda. She's more of an outspoken, more of a, I'm going to share this with the world, this is my opinion, and everyone is going to know about it. Lily Tomlin also has very strong ideologies, but she doesn't need to share them. She doesn't feel the need to share them with everyone around her. It's more important for her in some ways that the people that are close to her know about this from her, but she doesn't need to share it with the entire world. On the other side, she also has the 47-6, and this is really more of a role model, more of a looking down from a rooftop kind of atmosphere, or looking from a higher perspective. This is what the 6 line would stand for. And this is for every single gate. This is a very, very rough overview of how you can interpret these lines. This already provides a lot of insights when it comes to abstract thinking. So Jane Fonda is going to dominate in the abstract thinking, in the sense that there are going to be ideas that are flowing into her mind, and she's going to be able to conceptualize them and to make sense out of these ideas from within herself. So together, there's a really interesting dynamic where Jane is going to dominate more in the thought process, but if she provides space for Lily to share her insights and to come to her own understanding of finding the right conclusions for herself, there can be a really smooth and very idealistic friendship that is created. There's a lot of ideas and thoughts and stories that want to be shared through this friendship. Again, Jane is dominating as well or not dominating, because when I say dominating, it can seem like I'm talking about the dominance channels, which are solidly defined by one person, which we're going to get to, but it's a compromise channel where Jane is stronger, or where Lily will have to enter into a compromise in certain parts, because as well the 6124 channel in Lily is defined through her south node, unconscious south node, and I don't know why it's not showing in red here, but yeah, there seems to be a glitch in the system. So it's in her unconscious south node, which is not such a strong placement, and that's why even within the 6124, Jane would be more dominant in the 24 aspect, while Lily does provide the bridge with the 61st gate through her Mars. But this is Mars energy is always something that you need to grow into and not jump the gun, which tends to happen at the beginning when you're getting to know your Mars gates. So yeah, it's definitely a very thought process, idea intensive relationship, which also is shown in the 360 channel later on, where Lily Tomlin has the majority of definitions in this channel. And it's also a very revolutionizing, going against limitations kind of energy, because the gate 60 is about limitations. And in this channel, you can also see that Jane Fonda is going to be more aggressive in her going against the limitations and more outspoken with the 5th line. It's really about, look, it says expansive energy that cannot handle limitations. She's in detriment in this line. She's in Jupiter. This is something that she really needs to listen to. It's her personal law. Jupiter is your personal law, and if you don't listen to your Jupiter, your Saturn is going to punish you. So this is what is said in human design, that you really need to follow your Jupiter personal law so that your Saturn doesn't act up and punishes you. However, in your Saturn, you really also need to be disciplined. And what we can see here in Lily Tomlin is that she really needs to be disciplined about this formatting energy, where things can change very, very quickly, but she really needs to be mindful of her values. This is the gate 25 in Jupiter. And she needs to be mindful of her opinions, how she shares her opinions, when she shares her opinions. Otherwise, her Saturn is going to strike back and revolutionize, and she's going to fall into detriment. So these are a few of the compromise channels in their design, and then there are some dominance channels as well. But let's see if there's anything from Celestina's side that kind of rang a bell or felt like that makes sense in their relationships.
I think when they're being interviewed together, it is really interesting, the thought processes, I think, that come out. I mentioned this to you earlier, Miko, but I feel like Jane kind of dominates the conversation. And you're right, Lily does chime in when there is something she knows about that she can contribute to. So it's interesting seeing that, but because they both compromise each other in two ways, but because of the placements of those compromises, I think you're still seeing more of a Jane over Lily kind of thing, which I think is so interesting seeing it come out in interviews, but not necessarily coming out in acting.
Yeah, and this is showing how important it is to really be balanced within yourself, because every compromise can be a strength, but it can also be a very, very tough challenge in a relationship if you don't know how to navigate it. So if Jane is giving Lily this space to share her insights, but then she does take the lead. This is the natural relationship between them. But Lily cannot feel undervalued or underappreciated. And if Jane is able to do that, then that's beautiful. And I have a feeling that they are, because when I see them together, it's really so harmonious and so beautiful and loving and caring. So I really think that they have this down. The other thing is also that Jane is defining Lily's G center, but she naturally has it defined. So this is also where she's dominating. She is dominating in the 4629 channel, which is this taking care of your physical body as a temple, having the energy to do that. And on the other hand, Lily is dominating in the 3420 channel. So this do, this active, let's go, let's move, let's just get things done. So Jane is bringing in the ability for Lily to really channel this 3420, this go, into an action for self-love, but also into a go towards unconditional love. So the 10th gate can be both. It can be interpersonal and also personal kind of love. And this is a really beautiful, I love when this happens, that another individual is helping you to love yourself more. And I feel, this is the feeling that I get when I see them together as well. So yeah, this is where they dominate. There's also another dominance channel, which is the 3740 from Lily. This was the one about the bargains and the tribe and the ability to bring people together and in a family atmosphere kind of way. She probably also really loves to have dinners with family and friends, or lunches, and eat while coming together with people. This is a very important part for this channel, so important. And then they also create the marketing channel 4426 together. So this is another very, when I see this in relationships, I always think of being able to market yourself in a way that is appealing to others. So you really, when they come together, they sell. Because them together, it's something you want to strive for as an external viewer. Like you admire that about them, and they do it effortlessly. Jane has the 26.2, so it's a natural talent. 44.1 is more of a needing a foundation to sell, but I think their friendship has been created over so many years that they're really radiating that together through this foundation. It is, however, in detriment in Lily. And when it comes to the lines, you will also always see that there's a specific keynote to it. So here it says line 1, conditions. Conditions the establishment of framework as the result of interaction. Which also makes sense. They have the framework of the friendship, and in this friendship, they can interact with one another. And then the failure of the instinct out of the need for harmony. So this means that Lily may feel or may lose her instinctual awareness when she is too focused on only having and creating harmony within a relationship or with other people. So this is an important thing that I would point out to her and be like, okay, just don't worry about the harmony. Listen to your inner instincts, listen to your intuition, and see how it guides you. And it will provide you with the right moves to navigate instead of focusing on having a harmony. Because otherwise, if she's just focused on creating harmony within her relationships, she's not going to be able to be aware of what she truly needs for herself. A tendency for people pleasing maybe in certain times of her life.
As far as the physical fitness or just like being active goes, they're both in their 80s and they look fantastic. because they stay active. And yeah, they may have like arthritic fingers, but yo, if that's your biggest problem when you're 80 and you can still be physically active and go for walks and go for hikes. There was one like walk and talk interview that I was watching. Maybe it was from like 5 or 6 years ago, but still like early 80s. Lily was like hiking in California with this guy as he's interviewing her. So for her to be able to like walk as she's talking, I feel like that's indicative of really good health. And Jane Fonda always jokes like, yeah, I still do my workouts, but it's a lot slower. That's fine, man. You know, it's just really cool to see that they're both still very much into the self-care, self-love, take care of my body as a temple kind of mindset and action, not just mindset.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. And I hope they have many, many, many more walk and talk interviews ahead of them.
I think it's really interesting with the 9 and 0 Nowhere to Go that they're still so compatible and that they've really learned. I think they've probably learned a lot about themselves over the years, and that's probably brought them closer to being able to truly live into who they are, again, on their own, so that they can better their friendship. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just poking at that there. But I would assume just because they've done, or at least Jane Fonda has shared so much of her self-exploration journey over the years. And my understanding is that they've also done ayahuasca together. Like not just on Grace and Frankie, but like IRL. And they've like done shrooms together. Yeah. So I feel like that probably also strengthened their friendship.
I can seriously imagine them like in Grace and Frankie's. No joke. I think that's literally their friendship. Maybe not as crazy, but yeah, for me, that's why I love this show, because I feel like it's them.
A bit more dramatized, but yeah, I feel like their personalities definitely shine through.
I mean, if they've done shrooms and ayahuasca in real life, then sounds about right. That's so funny. I just remember the weed episode. I don't remember them taking ayahuasca on Grace and Frankie, but
it was like the first 1 or 2 episodes. I only know because I'm rewatching the series right now. But it was like one of the first 1 or 2 episodes of season 1. And they end up on a beach. They're drinking. I think they're drinking ayahuasca after they found out that their husbands wanted a divorce and were also marrying each other. And Frankie's like, goodbye, old Frankie. Hello, new Frankie. So she like takes half of the cup and then like vomits and then goes like to play a drum on the beach. And then Grace finds her because she can't stand up. So like Grace goes out there to help her. And then for whatever reason, she needs a sip of some beverage because she's like coughing or something. And then she drinks the ayahuasca, vomits, and then they trip all night. So good.
Oh my God. Amazing. I feel like once you're done with the book and the series and everything like that, we can do another episode.
Oh my God. I went so deep down the Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin rabbit hole this week. These last 2 weeks, really.
Yeah. I can see that. No, it was really interesting. And you did have a lot on Lily Tomlin as well. So yeah, it's so beautiful to see such strong women coming together, but also to hear so much power and determination coming out in a life. I always admire, especially back in the day, I feel like there were far more people that were revolutionizing or just in the activism field. They were, and especially women. My mom always reads biographies, and there are quite a few women that inspired me, like Waris DeRee, or there was one that traveled through Africa and the Middle East and places like this when women were not supposed to be doing that by themselves, and she was doing this 100 or 150 years ago all by herself. And I just find this so inspiring how certain women, just like Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, even though it's not that far back, but it was still, it took a lot of balls to do this at that time. And still today, yes, but wow. So yeah.
And that's a wrap on what we thought was only going to be one episode, turned into us talking about them for like 2 hours.
Thank you very much for sharing all of that insight from Jane and Lily Tomlin. I hope you liked it, you listener. I loved it. I always enjoy these stories because I'm always thrown into the cold water and I have no idea what's going to come out of it. So yeah, super interesting, and also always love looking into the human design at the same time.
Alrighty, guys. I'm going to ask you to do a thing. If you could share our podcast with one other human that you know this week, that would be fantastic. There's another podcast that I listen to. They're called Two Girls, One Ghost, and they call it the Pyramid Scheme. Of like, you tell a person and then they tell a person. I'm not going to steal their shtick, but I just need you to tell one other human this week about this podcast. Because if you know about human design, you've probably gushed about it to your friends and or family, so share this with them. We run the gamut of famous people, so they're bound to have an episode that they like. So send them one episode. I actually just sent my mom the Son of Sam episode because we mentioned her in it, and she's like, oh my god, it was so good! And like more things came up for her that I kind of wish we had been able to like have her on for it, but transcending 3 time zones is so aggressive. So we probably won't do that until she's physically here at some point. Nonetheless, share this with one person this week. Rate and review if you haven't already, regardless of where you guys are watching. If you're watching on multiple platforms, subscribe, rate, review, leave a comment, talk to us. We love friends. Thanks, guys. That was great. Until next week, ciao.
Bye, everyone.
That's all I got.
Clicked record too late.
You want me to do it? I can do it. Okay. So a couple of years after that, she had some more success in film. She was in a role, or rather, she was in a film where she played the mother of 2 deaf. No, that was Jane Fonda. Just kidding.
Just kidding. JK.
I'm still listening to Jane Fonda's book, so it's getting a little bit confusing and a little bit muddled up in my brain. Okay, I got it. Okay, so we're going to go back to the 70s because we took a little detour for her relationship with Jane. But back to the 70s, and Lily Tomlin was in a... Oh, I was right when I was saying 2 deaf children. God damn it, I was right. Okay.
Oh my god, this episode is gonna have a lot of bloopers.
Okay. So, we'll take a quick pause right there.
Let's cut to the advert. I don't think I currently have anything to add to this.
All right, we will not pause right there.
Yeah, I think I will wait until I get to, yeah.
Okay, va bene. Just trying to figure out where to pick up. I'm trying to figure out where to pick up.
Wait, what else can I add to this? Do you see anything to add to this?
No? Okay, it's fine. It's all good. So there are very few actors and actresses out there who can claim to have an EGOT, meaning an Emmy, a Golden Globe, an Oscar, and a Tony.
I thought a Grammy.
Grammy.
Oh, well, I wasn't even sure if it was the same thing or a different thing. So I have no idea. Before this episode, I asked you, what the hell are these things?
Okay.
Okay. Does that mean I'm deep diving now? What does that mean? Are you being born?
I said dive. Oh shit. Dive in. But it does kind of look vagina-esque. I'm sorry. And another blooper.
I think this episode is going to have more bloopers than... Well, then let's dive in. Now I'm going to have this image in my head.
Oh no. Miko. This is going to be fun to edit. Hope you come back, buddy. Hi.
No.
I think it'll be fine, no?
I hope so. Oh my god, why? It didn't even show my internet breaking down.
Let's do a quick outro and then we can see if it's there.
Yeah. Okay, cool.